One author, I would say, Ben has introduced it or talked about several books and authors and artists that I have ended up looking into, and Allison McDowell is one that I found very intriguing. Another one that I would say is even more intriguing to me, and I think that this guy is absolutely like the genius of our generation that all of us need, is Charles Eisenstein. Have you looked into any of his work? I mean,
Yeah.
what at what depth have you looked into his? Have you read Sacred
I
Economics?
haven't read that. That's actually on my book. I've got a huge book list, and I'm such a I'm an addict with podcasts, and I almost might just feel like just get it an audible of it because I'm multitasking a lot. But
I
I've
understand.
watched a lot of his YouTube, any basically
Well, have you
media
seen
I've
his? Have you
watched.
seen
Yeah,
his Russell Brand?
yeah.
Okay,
That's a
so if
great
you're
one. Yeah,
watching, yeah, because I just watched that the other day, and like, this guy is just amazing to me, and
yeah,
also, you and I have similar backgrounds. I'm sure you have a similar background with him, where he's like a very analytically minded
yeah.
mathematician type of guy, and then he went, had some experiences around age 20, I would guess, that took him more in of a spiritual, philosophical
Yeah.
direction. But yeah, I mean, if you
But
haven't
sacred
read,
economics is beautiful. I mean, I
yeah.
think that's a great start. I mean, I think I'm big on people who have great systemic designs. I was drawn to Zeitgeist. I've looked at a lot of these movements because there's a whole period of my life where I'm like, what is the best design for our solution, right? Is it Ubuntu? Is it Zeitgeist? Is it sacred economics? Is it the Venus Project? I've looked at them all. I think all have certain merits, but it's just like, we'll do whatever we can do in the moment, and if there's a great one we can implement, let's do it. But like, we don't have to have rigidity saying it only has to be this way. I think that's going to hold us back. So I've looked at a lot of those, and Charles, I think, is kind of that school of thought. He's like, sacred economics. It's this idea. It's similar to, like, I've looked a lot into conscious capitalism and benefit corporations. Um, but I think he's a little bit more resource-based economics. I'm trying to remember if he's
It's
like
gift economy.
gift economy. So it's very much the Burning Man mentality. That's what Burning Man used. Um, yeah, I mean, some people look at that and be like, that sounds like communism. What the hell? Like,
Oh,
so
of course, of course. If you don't read it, you don't know.
yeah. So I think, yeah, you got to understand like the nuance for sure. But once again, like, it's beautiful, amazing. I'm all about like, how do we get it implemented though? Like, whether it's that or any of these, like, we got to get it implemented. Like that, like the solutions are there. Um, and Charles talking with people like Russell and whatever way he can get it implemented, like whether it's in the public sector, in the private, in his own way. I don't know if he's doing certain things. He's really just seems like he's now like he's just like educating people about it and bringing awareness. But
Yep.
um we got to bring all those kind of people together and be like, yo, let's fucking implement. Let's take some of Charles stuff. Let's take some of this. Like, this is Peter, blah, blah, like, and are you guys cool to agree to disagree? Like, this is bigger than all of us. Like, we cool with that? Okay, like, let's go. So, that's what needs to happen. That's what people want. The energy's there, but we need a lot of people to do that. And you got to, I was in financial advising. Like, we got to wealth management. We got to pool resources so we can pull more shit off. Yeah, money sucks. I'm not about it. I'm in this sort of Tellinger camp of like, I think the mere presence of it is pretty shitty. But it's the what we have to currently use. So
I think you definitely should read Sacred Economics because
yeah,
I don't want to get too far into it, but there's two concepts. One, I'm sure you've heard of because it became popular due to Andrew Yang, universal basic income. I'm not going to go too far into that. I'm pro universal basic income. I do
I
think
am
that
too.
it is important how it's done, but let's not, I
Yeah,
won't go too far into
yeah,
that. The other concept that was novel to me that Charles sold me on, and not only did he sell me on it, like once you read something and it's almost like a psychedelic trip. It's like the integration part of it is almost more important than the actual experience itself sometimes. And
mhm.
like me thinking about the implications of negative interest, just, I mean, he taught, have you heard this idea, negative interest?
I'm thinking from an economic point of view, but I don't think it's right. I don't. I know cumulative interest.
So
Negative interest, no.
negative interest, yeah, definitely check the book out because, and obviously it sounds counterintuitive, pretty much our entire money system is an interest-based money system, and that might be the problem.
Debt-based slavery.
And he presents it as the problem, usury, right? And
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's the only time Jesus got mad. He kicked the priest
it-
charging money out of the church, man. I like to always bring that up with Christians. I'm like, hey, just telling you, your
yep,
boy, the only time he got mad is when he's like, why are you charging to talk to God,
Interest on
basically.
money. Yeah,
And
exactly.
money. Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah. And so like, yeah, I mean, fractional reserve lending, debt-based slavery, all these terms for basically how we've yeah, I mean, yeah, so but negative interest,
So yeah, negative interest. He's saying in his argument, and obviously he is going to lay it out in a much better way than I can right now. But ultimately, it comes down to every other good or service that we consider valuable loses value over time. Whether you're talking about food, livestock, crops, even services to some degree.
mhm,
If money obeys that, what he calls law of decay or law of decomposition, because everything on earth rots and returns to the soil, if money is the only thing where it's an insatiable desire. Every, hunger can be satisfied, sex can be satisfied, like everything else that we want and everything that money can obtain is satiable. We can satisfy it. But once we get that
hmm.
urge for money,
Or
that's where
greed.
greed comes in.
Yeah,
Exactly right.
yeah.
And it's an
So
insatiable,
money
you
creates
always
greed.
want more money.
Is he saying
Well,
money creates greed or
interest-based money creates greed because
okay,
when you have money and it's earning money just by having it, you see what I'm
right.
saying? Then
Any
there's no
system.
incentive
Yeah,
to. What he is encouraging is cash flow. He says a strong economy is more about how many transactions are taking
right.
place, how much
Liquidity.
money
Yeah.
is
The
flying
velocity
around,
of cash, as it's
not
called in
accumulation.
economics.
It,
Right.
it,
Yeah.
it discourages accumulation because, in fact, it makes environmental sustainability projects profitable because you take a billionaire who's, if they just hold that money, they're losing 5% a year. Well, they can invest in an environmental project at negative 1% a year and they're profiting.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, the whole system. When you really, it's really you got to give them credit because it is such a masterful, manipulative, crazy system. They have to make it so complex and so crazy to where people feel like I don't understand it. Whatever, let them do it. Right?
Right.
Like they have to do that
Chase
so
the
that
bag.
yeah.
Chase,
And I
chase,
remember when I was a financial
chase that
advisor,
paper
how like
stack.
yeah, like that was part of like that's kind of turned me off. What I didn't like. That was one of the when I started seeing the writing or the nasty or the writing on the wall when I was a financial advisor. Is like I mean, I think even one of the older advisors was like, "You just make it seem complicated," and I was like, "You motherfucker! That's not fiduciary responsibility. That's not looking out for the client. Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Make it seem complicated? Like that is such a like what he's saying is basically like, don't have them worry about it too much because then our job becomes obsolete."
Yeah.
And just like it was just it was but it's bigger. I realized if all these guys, a lot of them are thinking that way, then the system is designed like they're part of such a bigger, larger, fucked up thing that they don't realize. Like they were doing it for their own personal thing, but like
Of
the
course.
system has systemically wanted them to do that, and that's where
Bred
the
them that
crazy
way. Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, like you either yeah, you either are bred that way and stay in it, or you get out. Like it is that's part of how it works in all these industries. It's
Uh,
a
I was one of the Wells Fargo whistleblowers, bro. I know.
nice. Nice. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, so some people are like, all right, that's fucked up, but they keep the job. Or some people are like, no, like fuck this. Like this is really unethical, and I'm willing to face the consequences. But anyways, yeah, I mean, the systems, all these systems are designed in a way to incentivize unethical actions to a certain degree. Not all systems, and I know I tried really not to speak in generalizations, and I'd really like to be important and specific when we're talking about things. But if we're talking about the financial system, yeah, it's very much designed to create a certain outcome by design. A large amount of income inequality, a large amount of mass consolidation, a large amount of the most richest billionaires all being made every year are always financial hedge fund type guys. So it's old money, new financial hedge money is the main billionaires. Big tech, yeah, there's a few, but really it's finance. And yeah, we already talked. Big tech has issues. So these systems are designed exactly to get the outcome they get. And it's not a coincidence. And when people hear that sometimes, they think, oh, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. Like, please let me walk you through exactly what I'm referring to. But a lot of people, they don't want to accept that. And if you start to walk them through it, it's going to create obviously cognitive dissonance and make them feel uncomfortable. And I think that's what people are experiencing. But at the same time, what I see and what gives me a lot of hope is the youth and people in the millennial generation and younger in particular are really already cool with this, already like born into this like bullshit and be like, yo, I'm not a fan of this from the get-go. So why are we gonna advocate for it? No, let's let's find something new. I don't know, like whether it's like some are like anarchy, some are libertarian, some are like socialism. Nobody knows for sure, but they're like, this isn't working. This system's broken. And if you guys don't realize that, then like I don't know what to tell you. And I'm not trying to be ageist. I think there's a key role for elders, and a council of elders should be a big part of, I think, a new systemic design. And this whole idea of like, I'm bigger on direct democracy. I think politicians should have they should be administrators, and they've never really been that, or it's gotten worse and worse. And representative democracy, I don't know. Like I'm torn on that. I'm more in the direct democracy camp. I'm big on a universality. These are the small micro steps I think we can take. But yeah, like if there's big catalysts that allow for bigger solutions to be implemented, then yeah, let's strike while the iron's hot. But that's you just got to be mindful and have it ready when it comes. So yeah, the financial system is what it is. The solutions exist, like Ethereum and Bitcoin starting to challenge it, and people like Charles are important because they do really bring a refreshing, pragmatic perspective that I think is critical to taking those first steps towards implementation. And then people would be more open to embracing more, I guess you'd call, radical concepts like an Ubuntu or Zeitgeist or a Thrive movement. But whatever stage you're at, like if you're down to go, like yeah, I'm also like yeah, do it. Take the action.
You mentioned Tellinger and Ubuntu. That's one book that's on my list that I haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah.
And you said something about money not is his solution to get rid of money altogether?
Yeah. So he wants what's called contributionism, or it's a form of resource-based economy design. Probably most similar to like a Venus project, but he's trying to create a global, worldwide. Like I'm still on his email list. It's had some ups and downs with the movement. He tried to get elected as the first Ubuntu mayor in South Africa. It didn't work out. Now he's trying to get small town mayors all over the globe, more like smaller, certain size mayors to implement Ubuntu. It's basically like, and I forget all the specifics, but it's like everyone contributes a certain amount of hours to work. There's a shared. It gets nuanced, but there's a lot that I like. There are things that, if I look back on, maybe like, I don't know if I'd design exactly that way. Contributionism, though, it's all about resource-based economies, contributing your hours. We are the ones we've been waiting for. You work on what you're passionate about. Somebody will do every type of job. Basically, he's like, even somebody will shovel the shit. He tends to find that like it's doable. Like it touches back on like hunter-gatherer type concepts. He's from South Africa and this sort of indigenous African culture as well. But also he has a deep understanding of the financial system and how it's corrupt. And even just that alone is worth, just like, he totally breaks down how it's from the very beginning of Sumer and Babylon, fiat, all the way up to now, Knights Templar, like all these interesting threads. But yeah, like the mere presence of money is evil. So he's like, yeah, we get rid of money. But he also is like, the big thing, the rubber where it meets the road, is like, how do we can't just transition right away to no money. Maybe some people, that's where I remember debating with friends, a guy out, my friend Ryan, she's like, why not? Like, fuck that. Like, we could do it overnight. I'm like, Ryan, like, I love you, but like, there's a process that I think it's not realistic to think it's gonna, if there's a huge massive catalyst, like say extraterrestrials really get involved in landing, then maybe, yeah, that could happen. But for now, like, we have to have transitionary steps towards Ubuntu. And you see that happening, like I said, but like, yeah, I don't know if that's 100% going to be the best approach, but I think there's definitely some good stuff he outlines.
Hell yeah. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, man, but I have a couple more things I wanted to touch on. One is social credit system. And then the relation. So to touch on a few different things, social credit system. But you just mentioned that you're in favor of direct democracy versus a representative democracy. And I know a lot of people would say, well, the reason that there's a representative democracy instead of a direct democracy is the efficiency factor. And when it was created, that might be a good argument. But with today's technology and each one of us having a smartphone in our hands,
and Congress isn't very efficient. I mean,
right? I mean, exactly.
Whether you're left or right, how much of bills are they actually passing?
Exactly. So. I mean, I'm with you 100%. I think we could be voting on the issues on our smartphones ourselves, like everybody, right, over 18 or over 21 or whatever voting age they want to decide on.
They do it in Switzerland. I mean, like, here's how I lay it off for people in a quick, like, TLDR. you could, and Kyle Clancy's somebody who I don't agree with him on everything, but like he's definitely been influential on me. Jimmy Dore, similar, and I think Crystal Ball. These are very much like populist left. They're a lot of them are big into direct democracy, and essentially, you could do it in every quarter. You could vote on major referendums, similar to what they do in Switzerland. So the politicians really just become administrators, like they always should have been, and they
Right.
administrate the more day-to-day local, state, federal shit. Excuse my language, but a lot of times that is just BS. It's like, okay, should we put up a monument in this? Okay, fine, but like, did we? Like, and they'll use all these stupid things, filibusters, the slide-in riders, all these terms they have. It's just the system is very much broken. I actually just like officially like I'm getting involved more with the People's Party in Virginia and wherever I move. I voted on the state delegation. I'm totally not in the Democratic Party anymore, and I'm all about like direct action. Is like I'm not going to try to reform the Democratic Party. If there's a candidate like Tulsi or Bernie I liked last time that's in there, or a Yang, I'll support. But like for the most part, People's Party now. Like, but I'll also do private sector things. All the above, right? And so I'm just trying to find things that are closer, more towards what I'm aligned. Even if it's not perfect, it's closer. But I think there's also like there's an abusive dynamic within the two-party system itself by design to its voters. I mean, when you look at the studies out of Princeton, 80% of the time or something like that, the elites or the 1% get what they want or can kill a bill, and the masses have a statistically insignificant impact on ever getting what they want, right? So like literally your vote a lot of times is pretty, I don't say completely meaningless, but it has a very, very minimal impact. Bottom line is like lobbyists, Ron Door, all these things you hear is very serious and does really impact the entire system. So
Yeah.
it's legal corruption basically at this point. Everyone knows it's an open secret, and I'm big on like getting money out of politics. I'm really big on universal policies. I hate like means testing and all these things that'll slow it up and rigidity. Just universal this, universal this. I get, okay, first thing any conservative says, well, how do you pay for it? All right, well, like first off, we just print money out of thin air, which let's just first talk about that. And if we want to keep doing it that way. But second off, like there's a lot of ways, the more pragmatic ways, like you could put a very small tax on speculation
Let's
of
recover some of
major.
those accounting errors
Yeah,
first.
yeah. You could take money from the missing military spending. You can get it from a small tax on speculation of Wall Street gambling. Basically, you could maybe actually deal with the tax avoidance, and actually start collecting taxes from a lot of major billionaires. I'm look. It doesn't matter how high
Amazon.
we, yeah, it doesn't matter how high we tax them if they're always still paying an effective tax rate of like 0 to 4%. It doesn't matter. They know
Right.
ways to pay basically no income tax. So it's tax avoidance that's the real issue when you look into it. Rupert Grugman or Bergman, he's great. He talks on that. And
Yeah.
all this stuff too for you and just anyone. Like I curated all this stuff on like the Awaken. That was like my core thing before in teaming with Ben. It's a collective. Is like Awaken Awareness, Awaken Space. Like all these type of people that I really look to and admire are in those playlists. So anything I want to touch on, or if you're more want to go in depth, that's sort of where my brain trust has gone. So yeah, I mean, trying to remember your initial question, but basically, like, yeah, like it's. I'm blanking now. Where was your?
There was two of them. I kind of that's
Yeah, go
probably
ahead.
tricked you a little bit. One, but both of them are related to technology and having a smartphone in our hand.
Mhm.
One is direct democracy, which is what we were
Okay.
talking about.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
other one was social credit
Right.
scoring or social credit system.
I mean, that one's
Um,
easy. I think nobody wants, like, anybody with a real rational mind would
oof.
not be cool with social criticism. I mean, like, if we look at how it is in China and we just say, like, is this the right direction we want to go? Like, I don't think more involvement in deciding when you start having people who are the gatekeepers decide what's moral or ethical or financially acute. Like we have a FICO, we have those scores currently, and that's somewhat objective, you could argue. But social credit score, then you get into morality, then you get into ethics, then you get into things that government should not, and I think there's definitely
What
things
if it's
government.
decentralized though?
Well, I haven't heard it. Like maybe I haven't heard. You're talking about a different social credit score. The one I'm thinking
Well,
of
no,
is
I
the
mean,
Chinese. Like,
I know. Most of the time, when you bring up social credit scoring or a
yeah,
social credit system, that's what people think of, and
it could
people's
work.
minds automatically go to this is
No,
like
you're
a
right.
horrible idea. But what if?
Let
I
me
mean,
check this out.
honestly, I think if it was run properly, it's probably a
Right.
better money system than what we've got now.
Look, if we had an already system and design like an Ubuntu type, using that as like a way to like, hey, how are the community members doing, contributing and adding, not in like a dickish or dramatic or like that way. Like, yeah, for sure. But this is the same thing with like we could have a global government that's a new world order, or we could have a Star Trek galactic federation that's badass and we're kicking it, with aliens and exploring space. Like a global government isn't inherently bad in my mind, or decentralized global government, how you want to phrase it. Similar like the Star Trek Federation is like it's a federation of different countries that came together. And I forget how they describe it, but like I don't think that's inherently bad necessarily either. It's just um, what is the intent of the people in charge? Similar to social credit score, I think the intent of the Chinese is more about control
Of
and
course, yeah.
manipulation, and yeah. But if ours was run by a cool council of elders, that were doing it for looking out for the
Or I
benefit of
mean,
the
even
whole,
even like a
yeah,
truly decentralized. I mean, again, kind of harking back to what we were talking about earlier. My personal view is that there is technology that is so smart that it could be considered beings, but it's so different from humans that we're uh, shy to call it like another species or something like that. But my, my
yeah,
my point of saying all of this is I feel like there could be an overarching algorithm. I mean, it could be very similar to like cryptocurrency even, but where
yeah.
it's
If it's open source,
decentralized
yeah,
in
if it's
open
open
source,
source,
right?
yeah, for sure. I think that's the key. Like, and that's once again where I'm like, look, like let's just first focus on open source, getting that more involved in everything, right? And transparent. Like that's the implementation step, right? And if that's for an open source social credit score or whatever. Similar with direct democracy, all these things. Something I wanted to hit on, just thought is a lot of times people push back on direct democracy because like the majority rules, well, the majority is stupid. I look, there's times where I'm like, wow, yeah, there are some people that aren't really paying attention too much, but then there's times
Idiocracy argument, right?
right, right. I do think though people will vote in their best interest. And right now, what you're seeing is pretty much the voting in the interest of the elites, and we're seeing what that gets. So why not try and give it a go with the majority? And the majority, when you look at a lot of the polls, I agree a lot of times with the majority. If it's like a really well done poll, and polls are so much huge, for sure. But like, this is the idea of the populist movement, and why I really like Breaking Points with Crystal and Cigars, because they give a perspective of populist left and populist right, but they're both populist. They're both about direct democracy. They're both more about populism. I don't know if Cigars is much about direct democracy. I think Crystal more is, but it's more about people powered solutions, giving the power to the people truly, which was always the design of the Constitution. It was supposed to be of the people, for the people, by the people, but it's obviously become of the elites, for elites, and by the elites. So I think that's what resonated with a lot of the Sanders movement. I think that's what resonated with a lot of the Trump movement. Obviously they had strong disagreements with certain things, but a lot of it was very anti-establishment. A lot of it was very populist. A lot of it was more about giving power to the people. Whether you believe that actually happened and all that is another thing. But people want that. That's the key. People are yearning for that. People realize this is broken. So if you provide that in an authentic way and you can pull it off and have the resources to really implement it, that's why I'm like, don't reinvent the wheel. I'll team up with people who I think are doing it well, like a people's party, and see like let's go, okay, let's give it a shot. And then I'll do my own thing with media and whatever. But um, if you feel it, then get involved and find things that really are speaking to those kind of values, and they do exist. But I'm a humanist at heart. I'm a fucking humanist, and I think we are part of something greater. And I think humanity has so much to offer that we've already shown glimpses, but so much more when we're really allowed to be our fullest expression and not be enslaved by these systems of control. Everyone knows that. I think certain people feel like that's part of why they're here. Other people maybe just want to enjoy the show and be a Carlin or a Richard Pryor. That's fine, and they're beautiful. We need that. But um, I yeah, I think the people were ready. We're at a time, we're at a precipice point where we're ready for it. But I'm like, yeah, I hope we can provide these solutions and have them, or just have them. I want people to see them, I guess. Like that's my big thing is like, hey, know they're here and know we can implement them, but like it's gonna take some tough decisions. It might take some of your old thoughts and programs and ideas and assumptions to be broken, and that's okay. Like brutal honesty, that's the big thing that Paul Chek, all the health coaches we've talked to said, is like, first you just got to be brutally honest with yourself. Stop bullshitting yourself. Say, look, I love you, it's all good, you're human, you make mistakes, let's fucking move on, because there's so much opportunity, there's so much more we can thrive and have in our experience if we stop, if you really look at these assumptions with brutal honesty and unconditional love. That's when I read a book by Adi Ashanti. That was a big breakthrough that stuck through to me. So when I would realize, maybe it's something about myself, like, hey, you're being selfish, but then be like loving at the same time, like, all right, you're only human, like fucking just be better. Or like this assumption about are we only thing in the universe, and then brutally honestly look at it and really look at it like the observer objectively and really give it a steel man argument. And if it holds up, then just have enough love to not be, have the fear make you be afraid of being ridiculed or being a black sheep. um all these things, it always comes to those crossroads when you really start doing the work. But you got to first start, everyone says start, be the change you want to see in the world. But people are doing the work. I mean, people are they're helping other people do the work. We don't have to do the work alone. I think that's that's the big part of what community is there for. You don't have to do the work alone. And it's one of the most important things it provides is love and connection and strength and support to say, hey, it's okay, it might be tough, but you got this, brother. Like that was the beauty for a long time of indigenous hunter-gatherer cultures. We it takes a community to raise, or takes a village to raise a child. Like it's this beautiful idea of like, and that's the Ubuntu part I liked from Ubuntu, is like start really, that's a part of like really understanding and connecting and seeing other people as part of you. And one is a big part of, I think, what needs to be implemented in this system and what Brand really talks about and a lot of his messaging and his videos, and why people really resonate with him, and Ben as well. So the process is just as important. Walking the journey, is the exciting part. Learn to embrace the journey, learn to embrace the growth. Have love for yourself, be kind. I can be very self-critical, but like you can do it, and it can be better. Whatever you feel is not as good as you want, but it's going to take work. A discipline is something that I think more the right wing or conservatives subscribe to, that I've learned to more embrace, of like, yeah, like discipline is needed so that the work becomes easier, right? It becomes enjoyable. If you're disciplined, this is Peterson and a lot of David Goggins, these guys talk about it, but it allows you freedom. It allows you, when you do the work, when you do discipline, then it allows you freedom. It allows you more time and energy to spend with people you love. And so, yeah, like it's like, look, guys, like it might not be all sunshine and rainbows. You might get angry at times, you might cry, but I guarantee you'll come out feeling at least glad you gave it a shot and you did the work and you really took a chance to try a new perspective, to look at new assumptions differently. Because even if you go back to the old ones, then you can at least say, hey, like, I have no regrets. This is something to bring this sort of full circle to close it out here, that I was the pitch to clients in financial advising to use their weapons against them. You'd say, hey, let me look at your portfolio. Worst case scenario, you find out more about your portfolio. Best case scenario, you find out some things that we can do to make it better and provide some more, health and wellness in your life, So it's like a win-win, So that's kind of like, you know, look at some other perspectives, check out some of these things I'm talking about seriously, and really hold an open heart and have an open mind, if you really want to see what I can do. But yeah, I appreciate everyone who's trying to do the work, who's opening it. I appreciate you having these conversations, starting to open your mind. It is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. I get it. There's times where I miss it, man. Honestly, like this sounds weird or cliche, but like there's times where I miss being like, holy shit! Like I was getting like just like that is like just those ecstatic rushes of like the knowledge bomb of the dopamine of like something, finding out something's true and be like, wow, and really knowing that it's true, not just like I kind of think, but really knowing, and then experiencing the things lining up once you start to sort of integrate it. So yeah, I appreciate the time to sort of speak my truth, I guess.